Hello, everyone, and welcome again for our latest online event in our Become a Bobcat virtual series. Tonight, we'll be discussing Native and Indigenous student success at UC Merced. My name is Dustin Noji, and before we get started, I'd like to go over our program's agenda for tonight. First, we'll be covering a welcome and overview by one of our distinguished guests, as well as a land acknowledgement. Next, we'll move on to talk about our Native and Indigenous student experience from our academics to student life. And finally, you'll have the opportunity to talk to some of our distinguished guests, our Native and Indigenous community members, as a part of our community panel. Again, we welcome you so much tonight for joining us for our first ever Native and Indigenous Student Success Program. My name is Dustin Noji, and I'd like to introduce you to one of our distinguished guests tonight. Dr. Teenie Matlock is our Vice Provost for Academic Personnel and Professor of Cognitive Sciences, and one of our founding faculty members here at UC Merced. She's also holds a McClatchy Chair in Communications, and before joining and founding the University of California, Merced, she was a research assistant at Stanford University. So again, please join me in welcoming Dr. Teenie Matlock.
Thank you very much for being here, everybody. And thank you, Dustin Noji, for organizing this wonderful event. And thank you, my colleagues. I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to be with you tonight. By the way, I'm also part Native American myself. I'm proud to say I'm from Southern Sierra Miwok tribe, which is in the Mariposa County area, not too far from UC Merced. So I'm going to kick things off with the next part of our program with a brief land acknowledgement. Local Indigenous people, including the Yokuts and the Miwok, who understand the earth as a place for everyone, first inhabited the land where UC Merced is located. When we address diversity on this campus, we do so boldly, daring to look forward and backward, imagining diversity's demand for the 21st century and the importance of diversity in addressing past wrongs, reaffirming humanity, and ensuring a reconciliatory path of redress for the future. The most prominent path on our campus is called Scholars Lane. By day, you can see, hear, and witness the embodiment of our diversity through campus community members making their way across campus, framed by the slopes and peaks of the Sierra Nevada, which is also the home to many Native peoples. Thank you.
Thank you, Teenie, so much for that land acknowledgement and welcome. Next, we'd like to introduce some of our other community members tonight as a part of our panel. We'll start off with Dr. Robin DeLugan.
Hello, I'm Robin DeLugan. I'm a professor of anthropology at UC Merced, and I'm also part Native American. My family is Cherokee and Delaware on my mom's side. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited for everyone to be joining us virtually. My name is Dr. Lace Padilla. I'm an assistant professor in the Cognitive and Information Sciences Department here at the University of California, Merced. And I have Apache heritage on my mother's side. I'm Mexican and Apache. And, I think having an opportunity to answer questions from incoming students is a fabulous case where we can really make connections before you come to UC Merced. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Hello, I'm Spencer Castro. I am an assistant professor in the Management of Complex Systems Department at UC Merced, and on my dad's side, I am Southern Sierra Miwok and Mono Lake Paiute. And I look forward to fielding some of your questions.
Hello, my name is Irene Gonzalez. I am a third-year critical race and ethnic studies major. My hometown is Los Angeles, California, and I come from an indigenous school called Semillas Community Schools that taught me Nawa and Danza Azteca. And I'm also part of the Native Indigenous Student Coalition. So I'm really excited to tell you about some of the upcoming stuff that we have for you.
Awesome. And next, Dr. DeLugan will talk a little bit more about the classroom experience here at UC Merced.
So we're really excited to have you on campus. I understand you may have not been to campus because of COVID in the fall, we look forward to being back to business as normal. And it's really a beautiful campus. As the slide indicates, we're still very small and growing campus. And this means that our classroom sizes are still small. Even our larger lecture classrooms are much smaller than you might find at a bigger University of California campus. And that allows the faculty to interact with our students very carefully and closely from the classroom to the office hours to working together with research. And so you can see on the slide that, most of the classes are small, 30 students or so, and that's a great way to build community in the classroom. And for faculty to know our students' names, because sometimes in the bigger classrooms, I think students can feel a little bit invisible. And we really strive to not make that happen. So at UC Merced, we also really, we're a research university where the faculty are doing all kinds of really exciting research, but we also get our undergraduates involved in the research experience. And that's sort of unique for our campus, I believe. Irene will tell you a little bit later on, maybe something that she's involved with. We have an undergraduate research opportunity center, which actually coordinates a lot of that undergraduate experience for our students, whether you're in the science field, a STEM field, humanities, or social sciences. We have research opportunities and experiences that are really wonderful for getting hands-on learning and discovery, and also for professional and career development. I also do some community engaged research and promote that on our campus. So many of our faculty are really interested in not just doing research on the campus, but partnering and collaborating with our community stakeholders so that we can do impactful research that serves our local communities and our region.
Awesome. And so next, I wanted to introduce Dr. Teeny Matlock again to talk a little bit about our Taloma Project.
Wonderful. How's everybody doing? Hope you're doing okay. All right. I'm very excited to speak about this for a few minutes. There's a word, Taloma, in Miwok, and it's in all dialects of Miwok, and it means bobcat. Just in the past few months, we've started on our campus what we're calling the Taloma Project. And this has many exciting facets, and it will only expand in the months and the years to come. So when you're here on our campus as a student, or even if you're here as a community member visiting, you're going to see and be involved with these activities. We welcome that. So one part of this initiative is the following, something called Taloma Grove. So a Bobcat Grove. At this small grove, it's a native reflection area, kind of like some other college campuses. A few college campuses have this. It's an area where you can go and sit and reflect on how the land once belonged to Native peoples. You might have private thoughts that you give to the Creator, or thoughts you have for your family, or it's just an area where you might go meditate. It's also an area that our students may want to come and have a drumming circle, do a basket weaving demonstration, read about some myths from local tribes or other tribes as well. So we're really excited about this area. You see kind of a rough cut boulder there in that image. That's the main featured piece. You're going to see a different picture of it in a minute, and it looks even better. It'll have a plaque on it. Yeah, so there's this nice plaque that says Taloma Grove on it, and this shows the dedication of this monument to Indigenous peoples. And we're very, very excited about this and very grateful to have a new chancellor who very much values diversity and expanding and broadening our diversity, including putting a lot of effort towards bringing in Native students and families from the community and from other areas to our campus, whether they're students or working or spending time on our campus. So this plaque will go on the face of that boulder that you see We actually have a rock specialist who's going to grind it down a little bit, and then we'll nicely fit that plaque right in there. And then around that same area are boulders where people can sit. And then some of my colleagues here in the meeting tonight, we've picked out, together we've picked out different native grasses and native plants that will be in this area. Some of them have been planted and we're just starting to see them. Also in that area, there's a grove of small oak trees. So we're really proud and excited about Taloma Grove. Let's see, other things involved to Taloma Grove will be Taloma Run, a 5K Taloma fun run. And I'll let Spencer Castro tell you about this event that we're planning for the fall.
Yeah, so we are planning for November, which is Native Heritage Month, to have a 5K fun run and a powwow for this next upcoming year. And I actually, as a runner, I really enjoy this. And this is something that my family has done, that my great grandpa used to run races and had a group of bodyguards, because there were bets on some of these high mountain races where he needed bodyguards to protect him because people were making high bets on these races. So running is a part of some of the cultures around here, and I thought it would be nice if we could have a small fun run and raise some money for our student groups like NISC, and celebrate our Native heritage during Native American Heritage Month.
Great, thank you, Spencer. So that powwow that we just learned about will be on the same day, early in the morning of our first powwow. So we're going to have a powwow on that same day. It'll be the first Saturday in November, and we hope all of you can be there and take part. That would be wonderful. All right, let's pass it on to Robin, who will talk about NAGPRA and UC-wide system policies.
Thank you. Thank you, Tini. And this is just a brief comment. You know, we're part of a 10-campus UC system, and we think we're the best campus, the new campus, of course. But there's, you know, in the past, some of our universities have had holdings that there are now federal laws, NAGPRA and state laws have been you know, mandating that we return to tribes their ancestral remains and all. And there's a new policy. Tini and I are both really involved. It's interim. It's out for comments, including tribal input. But basically, it's to really expedite the return of holdings on campus. For our campus, where all campuses will be involved. And since our campus is new, we are pretty sure we don't have any holdings, but what it does is it gives us a chance to raise awareness to our faculty and our students and our researchers about the importance of this policy, about, you know, sometimes people have had things in their offices or, you know, for part of their teaching materials that maybe they shouldn't have. And so to be totally respectful, this policy is really aimed at doing the right thing, and I would say long overdue. And so we're just really happy to be part of this new chapter of really promoting that equitable return of materials to tribes, including to our local and regional tribes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin. And next, we want to talk a little bit more about some of the student organizations that we have on campus dedicated to Native and Indigenous students. And we'd like to reintroduce you to Irene to talk about NISC.
Hi, yes. I wanted to talk a little bit about how I actually got into NISC. So actually my first year of my freshman, when I was a freshman in fall 2018, I actually went to a student labor organizing conference at UCLA where I was able to meet Alondra Alani and Mauricio, who actually were then the leaders of NISC. And they were able to bring me in and were telling me like, hey, like, why aren't you a part of our group? So from there, like the spark just happened and I was a part of NISC. And now like I'm proud and honored to say that I am president of the Native and Indigenous Student Coalition. So the Native and Indigenous Student Coalition was created for charitable, educational, and cultural purposes. Within the organization, we plan to host on-campus events to bring students and faculty together to conduct cultural practices, hold educational workshops to let students know about the Native and Indigenous issues and support the educational success of the Native American and Indigenous community. So yeah, some of the things that we've done on campus have been like on Indigenous Peoples Day, we'll do a gathering, we'll do a ceremony, we'll gather and we'll kind of do like a poster party and create like posters. We've also done film screenings where we're able to like get the producers of like films from like Indigenous peoples of the Amazon that speak on their issues and show those films to students, and even have free food. And we know everybody loves free food. So yeah, we have a lot of good things coming.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Irene, for that. We also want to introduce you to one more group tonight that belongs here at UC Merced, and that's our Advancing Chicanos, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Science, or SACNAS as we call it. And SACNAS is a society of scientists dedicated to fostering the success of Hispanic, Chicano, and Native American scientists, from college students to professionals, to attain advanced degrees, careers, and positions in leadership and science. And it's a very active group on campus. So between the two different groups, you have lots of different opportunities to get involved. So next, I think this is probably the most exciting part of tonight's presentation, and that's an opportunity to hear from our community panel that's comprised of all the speakers you've heard from tonight. And it's an opportunity for you all as guests to ask any questions. So again, one more time, if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A button located at the bottom of your screen to enter any guests that you'd like to ask our guests tonight. So to kick things off, I think the first question we wanted to ask to the panel is, as a Native and Indigenous student, why would you choose UC Merced? Irene, did you want to start off with that one, since you're currently a student here on campus?
Yes, I'll go ahead and share. Coming from, let me know in the chat where you guys is from, like what part. I would want to know, because for me personally, like coming from LA and going to a place in Merced is something that's really hard, you know, like being the first one in your family, or even just being away from your family is something that's really hard to do. And UC Merced is actually like, I'm so happy I chose it. Like UC Merced is a space, like is my home away from home. Like even though it seems small and a lot of people complain about that, just know that like our campus is growing, and it's gonna be better than UCLA. It's gonna be better than Berkeley. And what we have here is community. Students have the opportunities to create stuff. Like you really have the opportunity to be the first one to create something. And I think that's really important, because this is coming a research university is about getting those opportunities.
Awesome. Thank you so much for saying that, Irene. And as a former a UC alumni myself, and someone who's a part of the American Indian Student Association at my campus, I think it's exciting to hear about that and to be on the ground floor and to be able to start those programs and really build that space for future community members. Next, I want to ask a question for some of our faculty panelists. You know, as faculty members, what's your favorite part of working with undergraduate students on campus?
I think Teeny's been at UC Merced the longest of all of us. I think she can speak for herself, but I think before the campus even opened its doors. But I came in 2006, and during the second year of the university. So 15 years ago, to see this campus slowly grow. And I came from UC Berkeley. So that's where everything is just so magnified. I mean, that's a wonderful campus as well. But UC Merced, as we were communicating earlier, it's just smaller. It's smaller and it's more intimate. It's more face-to-face. You really get a chance to connect to students and staff and faculty. It's just really, there's so much interpersonal connection there. in the beginning, I think Teeny would probably say we knew the name of everybody, on campus. It's much harder as we grow, but I don't think we've lost that spirit of community and being together. And so, for example, my classes are probably most of our faculty would say their classes are very student-centered. And what that means is rather than sitting in front of my group of students and just lecturing and talking to them, find ways to learn together, to ask questions together, to hear and learn. I learn as much from my students as maybe they learn from me. And that the way UC Merced is structured, maybe it's because of the small size that really lends itself to that. But even in bigger classes, there's plenty of ways to have interactive classrooms, and that kind of student connection and engagement is one of the things I really enjoy the most of working with undergraduates.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of words really quickly. Like Robin, I was at a very well-established campus before I came to UC Merced, and we were definitely Wild West in those early days, little tiny campus, just getting started, like a startup company. But what I instantly noticed with UC Merced students, it didn't matter if they were freshmen or seniors or what the level was, there was a natural curiosity, a pioneering spirit. Like, I want to be here because I want to learn new things. I want to help create this campus. I want to be part of the community and do things interdisciplinarily across different fields, and have double majors and study different things together. And it's one of the things that our campus does really well, that is flexibly allow our students to study different things. Another thing we do really well, better than I think any campus in the UC system, is make our undergraduates feel safe, make them feel valued, and make them feel like they're part of the family. You can check this yourself. Talk to any UC Merced undergrads, and they'll tell you they have a lot of friends here. They enjoy the campus experience. They feel close to their professors. We have that, a little bit of a small town, small campus feeling, and there are big benefits to that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Teeny and Robin, for responding. I wonder next if we can go back to Irene. And Irene, do you want to talk about some of the research that you're doing as an undergraduate student here at UC Merced?
Yes. So UC Merced has UROC, which is a chance where undergraduates are able to apply and get the opportunity to do 9 weeks of intensive research over the summer. And my research project or title is called Redesigning Cultural Institutions Through Indigenous Voices. So specifically, my project is going to be an ethnographic research where I do an intervention and ask and critique these spaces and ask how are local California Indian tribes being represented, and how are we learning about them through these spaces. And one of the things that I hope to get is sort of talk to community members and key personnel in charge of these places, and ask people from like Yoku tribes and be like, hey, what do you think about these places? Like, how do you feel about this? Like, and ask them, like, if you had a chance to create, like, your own space, what would that look like? So very exciting things that, like, like you can do your research in anything that you're passionate about. So yeah.
That's awesome. And as a part of a small campus, I wonder if one of the things I wanted to ask Dr. Padilla is, how do undergraduates connect with faculty members on campus? What's the best way to approach you to get involved in some of the research projects that Irene mentioned?
I mean, all of the classes are much smaller than another university. So one of the, I think, easiest ways is when you're taking a class with a professor and what they're talking about is really exciting. That's a great inroad to kind of ask them if they are doing research, what kind of research. All the faculty are so excited to talk to undergrads about their research and kind of bring people in. So I think that's a really nice thing about the size of the university. And I think in particular, all of the faculty Native or not, are really excited about bringing undergraduates in. So there's lots of room to do undergraduate research, more at this university than really other places that I've been to. So it's very easy and open environment, like everyone's saying. It has a small town feel.
I'd like to second that with a personal experience of working with an undergraduate who received some funding to do her own project on rural schooling and the impact of having to use technology during the pandemic. She received an undergraduate award, and the only reason I knew her was she took my class, and and she was somebody who was very interested in the course. Her project is very much her own and not completely related to exactly what I'm studying, but I agreed to mentor her through that experience of meeting her in class.
Awesome. And it looks like we have lots of folks in the room tonight introducing themselves and letting us know where they're from. So again, let us know where you're coming from, what communities you're from, folks that you're associated with. I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but again, my name is Dustin Oji, and I'm the director of admissions here at UC Merced. But prior to that, once upon a time, I was an undergraduate at UC campus, and my tribal affiliations are Lenape from my mother's side. And being a part of the American Indian Student Association at my UC campus was pivotal in my success, and feeling a part of a much larger community. I can completely relate to some of the things that Irene mentioned, in that community is so important to have, and to have that connection with folks that both know and appreciate your background and where you're from. And I think that kind of goes to the next question that we wanted to mention, which is, as folks from Native backgrounds, how do you navigate traditional teachings and culture in academia?
I mean, that's a very deep question, actually. So maybe I'll just say something about, my identity, my indigeneity, put it in academic terms, motivates my teaching, the classes that I teach. It motivates my research that I do in Central America and in California and other places. And there's, in my field, which is social sciences and humanities sort of combined, there's a real attention to addressing Indigenous people's issues. Some scholars are really focused on that. And I think that in an Indigenous perspective on this, on what I'm looking at the stack of books that I have on my desk as I'm preparing for my class in the fall, which is called Indigenous Activism in the Americas, which is, in a way, it's that expression of who I am and then how my teaching is informed by that. So I don't know if I've answered the question exactly, but I think it also ties to that part about community, building that community on campus. And that's among my faculty colleagues, Teeny and Spencer and Lace and others, as well as finding your community among students and staff. And I think that's one of the important ways that you navigate, is that you find your, you find your community and you build your community, and it's there, and you just find your place there.
Yeah, I'll jump in here too and just say that I think even if you're wanting to not do anything related to studying any kind of Indigenous topic per se, maybe you want to be an engineer or study music, or there's lots of different things that you could do. And I think UC Merced is special in that it allows you to bring in your perspective to those disciplines, where it really appreciates people, where they can have space to express themselves or study things in a way that makes sense for them and their background. And that isn't necessarily the case at other places, where you're expected to kind of do geology in a certain way, or there's these really defined kind of ways of knowing. I think at UC Merced, because there's so much diversity here, faculty across campus are interested in different types of knowledge contributing to their fields.
I'll chime in a little bit on this one too. My research area is cognitive science. I study how the brain interprets language. So very little of that, seems directly related to being part Native myself, or how my having Native lineage might inform my work. But to be honest, in the classroom, I'm an administrator now, I'm vice provost, so I'm not teaching the last couple of years. But when I did, I would draw a lot on, my identity as being a part Native person, and every opportunity in the classroom. So for example, whenever I was teaching a linguistics class, how people use and understand language, I would include a lot of elements about culture. And I would have a big section on moribund language. Moribund means languages that are dying. And in California itself, as all or many of you may know, many of our native languages have died, and some of them are down to 1, 2, 5, 10 native speakers. Like my own tribe is like that. We have no more than 10 native speakers of Southern Sierra Miwok. So I would always include that in the class and use that as an example of how we should preserve our cultural identity through language. So I think many of us that teach or come to the table as a learner, as a student, we bring many valuable aspects of who we are and that cultural background to what we do, and a lot of what we do with community building.
Thank you so much all for speaking to that. And I think it's extremely important to see those intersectionalities between both our experience as individuals and our experience as students and faculty on campus. So thank you for that insight. To another question for a lot of our guests who might be wondering, what's the thing that you like the most about being at UC Merced? And Irene, I wonder if you could answer that question first as a student.
Yes. So let me know in the chat box if you guys ever been to Yosemite. Yosemite has to be one of my favorite places. Being here at UC Merced, we're literally the gateway to Yosemite. So being here literally just gives you more opportunities to go out into nature and, like just be there and acknowledge that we coexist with nature and our animals. Specifically, at first, when I was a freshman, I was very intimidated about UC Merced. As I said, I come from LA, like it's very populated and like everything, and Merced's a bit different. But I just want to tell you guys, like, choose Merced. Like you guys will find your community, you guys will find your people, you guys will find your place. Trust me, it's worth it.
Awesome. And Irene and the rest of the members of tonight's panel, what's your best piece of advice for students thinking about coming to UC Merced? Because, and again, for those of you who are joining us that are admitted students, congratulations on your admissions, and we're so happy to have you tonight. But that first step, transition to university, can be a different experience. So what's your best piece of advice you'd give to incoming students for next year?
I have one really quick answer to that one. UC Merced is a very nurturing environment. We have high rigorous standards. We're as good as Berkeley or any of the other UCs in terms of standards. Many of our students get into top graduate school programs. They go on and they get masters and PhDs and professional degrees. And these students and many of our students, they come in and they're not afraid to ask questions. They're not afraid to work closely with the professor and work in a lab side by side and to really allow themselves to excel. So if you come to UC Merced, or when you come to UC Merced, just dive in. Nothing to be afraid of. I
might say something similar. That is so true. get involved. You know, there's you heard about NISC and SACNIS, but there are many student organizations. We have student government. So there's opportunities for, you know, you may or maybe don't want to do that in your first semester, your first year, that's up to you, but there's opportunities for student leadership. There's lots of volunteerism and community engagement with our students. They're doing interns in the community, or they're doing volunteering, or maybe after school help in the community. And we mentioned the community research or the research experience that is common to a lot of our students. And personally, I've been a real advocate for our research that can also connect and be done in collaboration with our local community. And so students often have a chance for that. And if that sounds exciting to you, to do a project that connects with community, that's another thing that you can do. Intersect with your academics, and then the things you do in your fun time.
Yeah, I just wanted to add some of my own experience. Everyone here seems so charismatic and outgoing. When I was an undergraduate student, I was really afraid to speak to professors. It was one of my biggest fears. And, you know, I wasn't sure about joining groups. And I think it was because of the culture of where I was at. A place like UC Merced, because there's so many people who share similar backgrounds and kind of understand where you're coming from and your experiences. I think I would find it so much easier to find connections with people and find kind of the right fit for me and believe in myself, rather than feel like it was this, fight to get everything. It was more like an open community where everyone's trying to support you. And I felt that as a faculty member, and I see that with students as well, that it's really a place where you're nurtured, I think. And I think that would really support my experience if I was an incoming undergraduate. And I like the burritos.
Awesome. And
that's in the chat, sorry. Those are really good burritos.
Well, that answers the second question actually in the chat, which is how are the dining halls, and do you all have any favorite foods on campus? So I hear one thing. Anybody else have any favorite foods they want to mention?
I actually worked at the pavilion, so
Nice.
I'm gonna tell you guys that when the chefs, sometimes they like to go off and they'll make ribs or like hot wings. So those are my favorite. But we also have food trucks come to campus, so I think that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if the school still does this, but I was lucky enough my first year that our meal plan included the food trucks. So that was pretty cool because we could use our meal plan money on the food trucks. And just to kind of give you guys some more, like, I don't know if you guys, whoever has had the chance to visit campus, but we have 2 dining centers. One of them is called, once you're there, we call it the small DC, which is like a smaller dining center. And then we have the bigger one, which is the new one, and it's called the Pavilion. The Pavilion has like, usually have like a bunch of different ones. They have like pizza, they have all that stuff, like hamburgers. Sometimes they have Chinese food, Italian food. And then the smaller dining center kind of has, I think we have Quickly's, we have Sam's Cafe, Little India, and J&R. J&R, amazing. They usually have tacos. And the food trucks they're pretty good too.
Awesome. And a couple more questions from our related to that, just Irene, since we're on the same topic. Irene, are there vegetarian options available?
Yes, there's usually vegetarian options available. I know sometimes there's like allergies and stuff, and usually like it's part of like our job. Well, I don't work at the dining center anymore, but it used to be part of my job to like make sure like all the food allergens are labeled, like any gluten or soy, like any of that stuff is usually labeled. And if like there's like certain things that you can eat or like certain questions, usually you could just ask the chef that's in charge of the station, and he'll just go ahead and like answer any question you have.
Awesome.
I
So
remember at the small DC, they have a salad bar that was all about local sourced, and they tell you that this particular vegetable of the season, where it came from, which local ranches and farms. And so I hope we return to that, because that was, I thought, was really a wonderful way to support local farmers, to show how we support local farmers and, you know, have a good vegetarian diet too.
awesome. That sounds great. And hopefully someday too, as our campus develops and we start having more community events. I know one of the things that I always look forward to as a student at my former UC campus was our fry bread sales that we'd use to raise funding for our powwow each year. So hopefully we'll bring some of those to campus as well. Maybe not healthy, but super tasty. So next question for the panel. It's about the academic experience at UC Merced. What's the academic culture at UC Merced? Is it rigorous, competitive, or more supportive? And I think Lay's kind of spoke to this a bit, but if anybody else would like to chime in as well.
Yeah, I'll just say a few words on this one. Again, a lot of our students do really well at graduation time. They go on to top graduate programs. Some of them get really good jobs in Silicon Valley and so on. And the reason they do that is because they receive a lot of support as students, undergraduate students on our campus, and they're getting a UC education that would be as good as UC Berkeley or UCLA. Our professors are top notch, you know, trained at all the best PhD programs and so on. So yes, it's rigorous, it's competitive for sure, and it's very supportive, indeed.
I would just add a little bit to that, don't be afraid to approach your professors. It's funny, I think I'm a pretty friendly person, and yet I've had office hours, and the first time a student would come to see me and maybe shake my hand, and they'd have sweaty palms and be kind of sweating and nervous. And, you know, it's my job to sort of say, you know, I'm here to support you, and, you know, and whatever you want to do, let me be your, you know, support you in that. And so part of student success, I think, is that being able to work with the faculty, and so and I think we're all pretty friendly. If they're not, you better let Teeny and I know if they're not friendly. But I think most faculty are really friendly, and high expectations. I mean, congratulations to you for getting admitted. You've already shown that you can do the work. You know, you're a high achieving student, and we want to continue that. We want you to grow and thrive and be able to have as many possibilities in front of you as possible, so to support your academic success.
Awesome. And so we want to take another question from the Q&A. So does UC Merced have a powwow?
The answer is yes. We are planning the inaugural powwow for the first Saturday in November, along with a 5K run. And we are currently in the early planning stages, but look forward to, in your first semester, that event, probably right down by, there's this pond on campus right next to the pavilion. The pavilion overlooks a nice pond. I saw there was a question about if you were allowed on campus. I thought Dustin should talk a little bit more about the driving tours. But that is about, the powwow will be in a nice grass bowl there. I believe that's very close to where in 2008, Michelle Obama spoke for the inaugural graduating class. Teeny, is that correct? Or
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. So that's the venue and that's the location, and we'll be sending out emails when you start joining listservs leading up to the powwow in that first semester.
Yeah, and to talk a little bit right now too about ways to visit campus, because we know that right now we're a bit limited in terms of how many visitors we can have on campus and actually have y'all step foot on campus. one of the things that we've done, and we like to do this a lot at UC Merced, is we've tried to be innovative, and we set up what we call drive-through tours. And drive-through tours is an opportunity for you and your family from the safety of your car to tour our campus. You can tour our campus, hear from our tour guides using your smartphone, and really try to get the best sense and opportunity to see our environment in a very safe way. You can sign up for drive-through tours Monday through Sunday, and we have lots of availability and lots of folks have participated in them. And in fact, I think I saw somebody mention it in the Q&A. So again, we welcome you to come out to campus. Our plan is, as soon as it's safe to do so, to begin opening campus tours for admitted students for the fall. And we'll be sure to update you on our tours website, which is tours.ucmerced.edu. So you'll see there in the link, if you'd like to learn more about drive-through tours, go ahead and click that link and sign up. There's currently no limit to visit the campus, and we'd love to host you all if you want to come out.
So I see you've got the logo there. We're in the heart of California. That was a photo. That was from an aerial photograph of a student. I think maybe we were freshmen that year, that went out to form the state of California with a big heart in the middle, saying that's us there in the heart of California. But our campus has just completed, or last spring, completed a physical expansion. We called it the 2020 project, where we basically doubled the physical size of campus. And it's so impressive. A beautiful new swimming pool, beautiful new soccer fields, and much more. And it's just only been a little sad that with COVID, that we haven't really had a chance to break in those new rooms yet the way we would like to. So I'm sure in the fall we'll be back to normal if all goes as planned, and you'll see a very beautiful and welcoming campus.
I wanted to add that if any of you guys are kind of doubting or like questions about coming, there's our school. So it's our school, and then there's like it's sort of like a walkway that you could go to the lake. So literally our school is right next to a lake. You don't even have to like leave the school, like it's right next to the lake. And I think it's so cool, like if you really like just to like chill, things like watching the sunset is one of my favorite things to do, especially with my friends. Like first year I would always go right after class, or if I just had a long day, I would just go walk to the lake, which was right next to campus. And yeah, like you can paddleboard, you can kayak, you can have like you can make food with your friends. It's really nice. Oh, you can play basketball too.
Awesome. And one of the questions that came in from the panel is, do students need to have a car if they're coming to UC Merced?
I can answer that because I personally don't have a car. So I feel you guys if you guys are like not scared, but nervous about that. I'm about to be in my 4th year and I still don't have a car. Just know that like there's still ways to get around. Like it might not be as convenient, like if you don't have a car, but everything like somehow is like kind of close together. And especially if you're first year on campus, everything for you is mostly there. And the lake is always there for you to go to, like, relax. And there's also a tour, like I don't know about for Yosemite, there's also a bus that like, if you're part of the school, they'll actually have like, they'll let you, there's certain dates where you could go, and then it's like a whole bus, and like it'll take you to Merced, and then when it's time to go, like you'll come back in the bus too. So yeah.
Yeah, Irene, I'll just add one more little thing there. I totally agree with everything you've said. And a lot of our students have bicycles too. And the whole area around the campus is getting better and better all the time with bike paths. And, the streets aren't overly busy and that kind of thing. So it is pretty easy to get around town and the campus. And then for those of you who like hiking or rock climbing, you can easily hop on Yosemite area rapid transit buses, which will take you all the way up into Yosemite. It takes about an hour and a half. You can do your homework while you're on the bus, ride up there, spend all day in the park in Yosemite, and then ride back early that evening. It's really a nice experience, and it's very inexpensive. I think you only pay $5 or $10 to do that.
Awesome. And so one question that came in through the chat, is it hard to obtain a job on campus?
I know my first time applying for a job on campus was kind of scary because it's just really intimidating. But just know that there's like we have the Student Success Center and other centers on campus that offer these career building workshops that help you on your resume, help you on your handshake profile, help you on your LinkedIn. So yeah, you just know that you have these resources to help you secure a job.
And I'm not that familiar with how there are jobs on campus too. I'm just not quite sure the process. I'm sorry, I wish I knew more, but I know that I've hired students to work with me on projects on campus, to be research assistants, to help out with different projects that I've been involved with. So faculty hire students as well as different units on campus also hire students as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to speak to that for a second. You know, one of the great benefits of being director of admissions is we get to hire some of the new tour guides every year, and the DriveThrough Tours was really in partnership with our students who had this amazing idea to come up with an opportunity that will allow students and faculty, students and visitors to see campus, you know, from the comfort of their car. And so that was one of the things that they did. And I think one of the great things about student employment too is that, you know, because we're a university, it's also an opportunity not just to get a job, but to be to make networks with some of the folks that work on campus, where we can serve as you know, letters of recommendation for what you want to do after the university. And so, you know, and we've had folks, I've had folks that have worked for our office that have gone on to work for Twitter, Google, and a lot of other big name companies. And you know, one of the things they always point to is that student job, you know, can be more than a job. It's an opportunity to build your network and really empower yourself outside the classroom. So again, if you have questions, you see the URL there in the chat, feel free to go to it. Once you submit your SIR to campus and say that you're coming to UC Merced, you can start to seek out some of those employment opportunities. All right, and we are approaching the end of our event. So I want to give you all a chance one more time if you'd like to enter any last questions that you'd like to have for our panelists before we conclude tonight's program.
I see a question was about the music program in the chat. We have a global arts, media and writing studies program, and there are several faculty there that are musicians. I think there are choral classes, jazz. I don't know them all, it's not my area, but I do know that there's also student organizations that are music oriented and performance oriented. So yeah, there's a lot of art and creativity on campus.
Also, there's one professor in the cognitive science department that studies how people understand and think about music. So he studies it from a scientific perspective, if that's an angle you like to take about music as well.
I was going to chime in too. There's also Merced College just down the street. I'm a musician myself. I play trumpet, and every Monday night I go down and I play with their jazz band. So that's a lot of fun. It's, you know, not taking a UC Merced class, but it's a lot of fun to meet other musicians in the community nearby.
Awesome. And I wanted to turn it over one last time to Irene. Irene, for incoming students this fall, or even perhaps in a future semester, what are some opportunities and events that NISC has coming up this next year?
We have coming a drum circle. So this drum circle will be led by Alejandro, who will actually be leading how to make the drum from scratch. And then we also have medicine bag workshops, film screenings. We also started a series called Decolonizing Your Diet, where we invite students of the UC and the community to participate in sharing any recipes that have been passed down in your family from your grandmas and grandpas. And then we also have done plant workshops where we talk about medicinal plants. And we've also worked with the UC Merced Gardening Club. If you guys are really interested in gardening, we've actually done a gardening event where we plant corn and we take care of the space. So yeah, if you guys are interested, at the end of the PowerPoint, there's going to be our Instagram and our Facebook. Go ahead and follow our Instagram so you guys can be more updated on the upcoming events and workshops we have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Irene, for that update about all the wonderful things that NIST has planned. And so I just wanted to thank all the panelists tonight, our amazing faculty, and Irene, one of our undergraduate students, for all of the information you provided about both the things that we currently have available for students and things that we're planning in the future to help build our Native and Indigenous community here at UC Merced. Tonight's event has been a part of our Become a Bobcat virtual series. For those of you who have further questions about coming to UC Merced, about financial aid, or even job opportunities, you're welcome to reach out to our Students First Center. Our Students First Center is our one-stop shop where students can have the opportunity to ask questions about financial aid, admissions, registration, all in one space. Our Students First Center is open Monday through Friday, and you can contact them by phone, by email, or also a chat that they have featured throughout the week. And so we encourage you to do that. Along those lines, I want to make sure to give a shout out again to our Native and Indigenous Student Coalition. You can connect with them on Facebook or also on their Instagram account that you have posted there on the screen, and they'd love to hear from you. If you take a look at their sites, they have lots of events planned throughout the year. And as always, you can reach out to the Office of Admissions if you have additional questions about your admission or about upcoming events. We encourage you to visit the admissions.ucmerced.edu website and also our Become a Bobcat series webpage to find out about some other events that you can learn more about UC Merced. Again, we are so thankful for this amazing turnout that we've had at our first ever Native and Indigenous Student Success event. Thank you to each and every one of you, participants, panelists, and those of you working behind the scenes. Thank you for making tonight happen. I've posted some of the upcoming events that you can participate in as a Become a Bobcat series. And if you don't want to write down that URL, you can go ahead and take a snapshot of that QR code. And again, you can use that to access all the upcoming events we have planned for you all in the future. Again, on behalf of the University of California, Merced, my name is Dustin Oji. Thank you so much tonight for being a part of our first ever Native and Indigenous Student Success Conference. We wish you the best of luck. We look forward to connecting with you and seeing you all on campus very soon. Thank you again, and have a nice night.